planets fall down.
So in fact, the Earth is always falling into the sun. Can you believe that? So it's always falling into the sun. I want you to imagine throwing a ball. When you throw a ball, it goes like this, and then it falls down to Earth. But the Earth is round. So if you threw it fast enough, it would keep falling towards Earth, but it would never hit the ground. If you threw it fast enough, it would just keep going around and around and around. It's always falling towards Earth, but it's moving too fast to ever land. And that's what the moon does around Earth, and that's what Earth does around the sun. It's always falling.
So how planets form?
Planets usually form around stars. So you have a lot of gas, just a lot of stuff floating around, and the gravity starts pulling that together, and it pulls it all together and it starts to spin, and some of the stuff clumps up in the middle, and that forms a star, and the stuff that's spinning around the outside will pull itself together, and that will form planets, and those planets will attract things to them, and they'll get hit by comets, and they might grow a little bit.
What is the biggest thing in outer space?
We know of some really big black holes. If you're talking about one thing, there's very massive galaxies. So galaxies contain billions and billions of stars. Yeah. And then the galaxies and the stars and the gas, they all form this web. So there's this web of all galaxies, and we're part of that web. So maybe the web of galaxies is the biggest thing in the universe.
How much momentum does a rocket take up?
Momentum is how much mass, how much stuff is inside of something, and how fast it's going. So the more stuff you have, the higher your momentum, and the faster you're going, the higher your momentum. So rockets have lots of momentum because they go really fast. They need to escape Earth, so they need to go very fast to get off the surface of Earth. But also they have a lot of mass because they carry fuel. It takes a lot of fuel. But as it goes up, it loses momentum because it burns its fuel. And once they get to the upper atmosphere, they actually drop their fuel cells, and then they're much lighter. And by the time they get into outer space and they're going around the Earth in an orbit, then they've lost a lot of the momentum that they had when they were taking off.
When the wind comes, why do the clouds don't really move?
So the clouds, most of the clouds are way up high in the upper atmosphere. And the winds are different up there. Sometimes they're going in the opposite direction of the wind down here. So you can have wind going near the Earth that goes this way, and wind in the upper atmosphere that goes the other way. So the wind in the upper atmosphere is almost, it's not the opposite, but it's very different from the wind near the surface. It does its own thing up there. So if you've heard of things like the jet stream, so those are winds that go all the way around the Earth in the upper atmosphere and don't change very much. But the wind that we see down here, like the winds that move the leaves on the trees and blow stuff around, they change every day. Yeah.
Why do trees change color?
Because the Earth is tilted on the axis that it spins. So the Earth spins and goes around once every 24 hours. But the way that it spins is not pointed away from the sun or towards the sun. It's kind of at an angle. And so that means if you're on the top, then you might receive more sunlight than people that are on the bottom. And then when the Earth goes around the sun, you receive the opposite amount of sunlight. So we get seasons because of the tilt of the Earth. We have summer and autumn and winter and spring based on where we are around the sun. Now, if we receive less sunlight, then it's going to be colder. So that's why it's colder in winter than it is in summer, because wherever you are on Earth is pointed away from the sun most of the time. And that heat and that energy from the sun is what plants like trees need to grow. And so what the plants do in the winter is they hibernate, just like you might have heard of bears. They hibernate, or other animals, they dig holes and they hibernate. So in the winter, when the tree has no leaves, it's really hibernating. It's slowing it down. It's kind of sleeping. And to sleep, it doesn't need the leaves. Like the leaves use up energy, so it lets the leaves fall off and stops getting energy from the sun so that it can sleep. Yeah, so it's like sleeping trees. They don't need their leaves, and so it's more it's better for them. It doesn't use as much energy if they just let them fall off. And the reason that they're green is because they use sunlight to create a chemical called chlorophyll. So the greenness in plants and leaves is just a special chemical that the plants create from sunlight. So if it's not receiving as much sunlight, if it's not using sunlight to create energy, if it's sleeping, then it can't create this green chlorophyll, and the leaves will change color. Well, everyone, I definitely enjoy your questions. You had very good questions today, and I hope you have a very nice day. Goodbye, everyone.
Let's learn with